The airplane was full, but at 27 felt strangely empty to her. 4-year-old Emily Carter sat by the window, her hands resting tightly on her lap. The clouds outside looked soft and peaceful, like cotton spread across the sky, but her heart was anything but calm. This was the first time she had ever flown alone. Her motors were echoed in her mind. Joie be fine, sweetheart. It's used a few hours. Be brave. Emily tried to be brave. She pressed her forehead gently against the cold window. Far below, the city she grew up in was slowly disappearing. Schools, streets, memories, everything was shrinking into teeny shops. She swallowed hard. The flight attendants moved up and down the aisle, smiling, helping passengers with bags and seatbelts. People laughed, typed on laptops, watched movies. To them, this was just another flight. To Emily, it felt like her entire world was suspended in the air. She was flying to meet her father, who worked overseas. It had been 2 years since Sheila saw him. 2 years of video calls, vice versa, and promises of so on. This flight was supposed to be the happiest moment of her life. She didn't know it would become the most terrifying. As the plane reached cruising altitude, Emily slowly relaxed. The seatbelt sign turned off. She took a deep breath and opened the small book her mother had given her. A simple notebook with a handwritten message on the first page. No matter how it you go, remember who you are. Emily smiled fondly. Suddenly, a strange sound cut through the cabin. It wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. It was wrong. A low, uneven vibration passed through the floor beneath her feet. A few passengers looked up. Someone frowned. The engines didn't sound the same anymore. Emily's heart skipped. Moments later, the captain's voice came over the intercom. It was calm, too calm. Ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain speaking. We were experiencing a minor technical issue. Please remain seated with your seatbelt fastened. A minor issue. Emily tried to trust those words, but her hands began to sweat. She looked around. Most adults went back to what they were doing, but a few exchanged wary glances. The vibration returned, stronger this time. Then the planet tilted slightly. Gasps filled the cabin. Emily grabbed the armrest. Her breathing became shallow. She wanted to cry, but no tears came, only fear, sharp and freezing. Then the closed cockpit door. Things were not minor at all. Both pilots stared at the control panel in silence. Warning lights flashed red and amber. One engine had already failed. The second was unstable. Hydraulic pressure is dropping, the co-pilot said quietly. The captain's yaw tightened. It has thousands of flight hours, but this situation was rare. Dangerous. Every second mattered. They tried restarting systems. They followed procedures. They checked emergency manuals. Nothing worked. Fuel readings were inconsistent. Controls felt heavy. The aircraft wasn't responding the way it should. For the first time in his career, the captain felt something he never allowed himself to feel before. Doubt. Back in the cabin, Emily noticed a flight attendant kneeling beside an elderly man, speaking softly, holding his hand. Another attendant whispered urgently into a phone near the galley. This wasn't normal. Emily's chest tightened. She hugged her backpack to herself, as if it could protect her. She thought of her father waiting at the airport. She thought of her mother standing alone in the kitchen that morning, pretending not to cry. I'm only 14, she thought. I don't want to die. The intercom clicked again. This time, the captain paused before speaking. Ladies and gentlemen, he said slowly, we are facing a more serious situation than expected. Our crew is trained for this, and we are doing everything possible. Please stay calm. Calm. That word shattered something inside Emily. A woman threw her head began to pray. A man squeezed his wife's hand. A baby started crying. The sound seemed frightened. The plane shook harder. In the cockpit, the co-pilot looked at the captain, his voice barely steady. If we lose full control, we won't make the nearest airport. The captain closed his eyes for a brief second. They are trained for emergencies. They are prepared for worst-case scenarios. But some situations exist beyond checklists and simulations. Moments where experience runs out. Moments where pilots give up hope. The captain exhaled slowly. Prepare the cabin, he said. We might need to attempt an emergency descent. That sentence could never be spoken aloud to the passengers. Not yet. Emily felt the planet drop slightly, like an invisible hand pulling it down. Her stomach twisted. She couldn't tell it anymore. Tears streamed down her face. She whispered to herself, barely audible, "Please, someone help us." She didn't know it yet, but help could come from the most unexpected place. Because while the pilots were running out of answers, while fear filled every corner of the aircraft, a 14-year-old girl was about to discover a strength she never knew she had, and the fate of everyone on board could soon depend on her. The drop was small, but everyone felt it. A sudden silence followed. The kidnap presses against your ears and makes your heart beat louder. The engines were still running, but their sound was uneven now, like someone breathing through pain. Emily wiped her tears with the sleeve of her hoodie. Her hands were shaking so badly she had to press them together to make them stop. Around her, the cabin a chant. People were no longer strangers lost in their own worlds. Fear had connected them. A flight attendant stood in the easel, gripping the back of a seat to keep her balance. Her smile was gone, replaced by a careful, practiced calm. "Please remain seated," she said, her voice steady but strong. "We are handling the situation." Handling it. Emily noticed something else, something small, but important. The flight attendant's eyes were red. Not from smoke. From tears she was trying not to let fall. That's when Emily understood something terrible. The adults were scared too. Her mind raced. She had always believed grown-ups knew what todo. Pilots, teachers, parents. They were supposed to have answers. But right now, no one did. The planet shook again, harder this time. Like compartments rattled. A sharp din echoed as the several sign lit up again. Somewhere near the back, someone screamed. Emily's breathing became fast and shallow. Her chest hit. She felt trapped inside her own body, inside this metal tube hanging in the sky. Then, a memory surfaced. She was 9 years old, sitting beside her father in a small flight simulator at a science museum. He had laughed as let her all the truths. Flying isn't about strength, he had said. It's about understanding. At the time, she hadn't really understood what it meant. Now, for the first time, she wondered if that memory mattered. In the cockpit, the situation was falling apart. The co-pilot's hands moved quickly over switches and screens. "We were lost primary hydraulics," he said. "Backup isn't responding." The captain nodded slowly, his face pale back and truth. He had already sent out a silent emergency code. Air traffic control was responding, but help was far away. Too far. They were running out of altitude, running out of options, and running out of hope. Back in the cabin, a man stood up despite the warnings. "Tell us the truth," he shouted. "Are we going to crash?" The flight attendant rushed toward him. "Sir, please sit down." The plane lurched suddenly, throwing him back into his seat. Panic spread like fear. Emily covered her ears. She wanted it to stop. The noise, the fear, the feeling that everything was slipping away. Then she noticed the man sitting beside her. It was middle ahead, wearing glasses and a worn leather jacket. His hands were clenched, knuckles white. But when he looked at Emily, he forced a small smile. "You okay?" he asked softly. She shook her head and nodded, as if expected any other answer. "Me neither," he said. Then, after a pause, "But we were still here. That counts." His words were simple, but they grounded her. Still here. Emily looked down at her backpack again. Her mother had packed it carefully. Snacks, a sweater, and the notebook. The notebook. Her fingers slipped inside and touched something else. A folded piece of paper. Confused, she pulled it out. It was a printed document. Old. The heading read, "Basic Emergency Aircraft Procedures Training Copy." Her heart skipped. Her father. He must have slept eating without telling her, the way parents do things quietly, hoping they never matter. Emily stared at the pages. They weren't detailed manuals, used simplified steps. Explanations written in plain language. Notice in the margins, in her father's handwriting. Understand the situation. Stay calm. Panic helps no one. Small actions can save lives. Her hands stopped shaking. Not because she wasn't afraid, Vad because fair finally met purpose. Another violence chatter ran through the planet. Oxygen masks dropped from the ceiling. Screams erupted. The flight attendants shouted instructions, their voices overlapping. Emily's heart pounded, but her mind felt strangely clear. She looked toward the cockpit door. It was still closed. She stood up. The man beside her grabbed her arm. Hey, don't. Yeah, beto, she said, surprising even herself with how steady her voice sounded. Sit down, someone yelled. But Emily was already moving. The isla felt longer than it ever before. The planet rocked as it walked, forcing her to grip setbacks to stay upright. People stared at her, confused, frightened. She was just a kid. A scared kid. But she kept going. A flight attendant rushed toward her. Sweetheart, you need to go back to your seat. You need to talk to the pilot, Emily said. The attendant froze. What? I think he can't help. For a moment, the woman you stared at her. Then another violent shake threw them both forward. The attendant caught herself against the wall, breathing hard. She looked into Emily's eyes and saw something unexpected. Not fair. Focus. She hesitated only a second before picking up the intercom phone and speaking urgently. Captain, she said, there is a passenger here. A young girl. She says she may be able to help. In the cockpit, the captain frowned. Help how? The flight attendant looked down at Emily. Emily swallowed. He knows some emergency procedures, she said quietly. My dad, a tram pilot. Silence filled the cockpit. Then the captain said something no one expected. Bring her in. The cockpit door opened. And with shaking legs and abrupt, breaking guard, Emily stepped forward. A 40-year-old girl walking into the place where Opie had almost disappeared. The cockpit smelled like hot metal and tension. Emily stepped inside, and the door closed behind her with a heavy click that echoed louder than its own lave. For a brief moment, she forgot how to breathe. Screens glowed in front of her. Numbers, warnings, blinking lights she didn't fully understand. The captain and co-pilot turned to look at her. Their faces were lined with exhaustion and something deeper. Fear. She was suddenly very aware of how small she was. Her feet barely veered the floor properly. Her voice felt trapped somewhere between her heart and her throat. The captain spoke first, carefully. But your name? Emily, she said. How old are you, Emily? 14. The co-pilot let out a slow breath and looked away. The weight of that and swirling in the air. The captain rubbed his forehead. Emily, this is a very serious situation. We don't have a team effort. No, she interrupted, then immediately regretted it. Man, I'm sorry. No, I'm just a kid. She reached into her backpack with shaking hands and pulled out the fully papers. But my dad isn't there, she continued. As a flight instructor. A trans pilot. A taught me basics. Not flying, used understanding emergencies. The captain's eyes dropped to the papers. He taught them gently, scanning the pages. His expression changed, not to ope, not yet, but to attention. The co-pilot leaned in. These are simple for procedures, he said quietly. For non-pilots. They were meant for panic situations, Emily said. When systems fall and your mind freezes. The planet shook again, harder than before. Warning alarms blared. Captain, the co-pilot said urgently. We were losing lateral control. The captain clenched his jaw. Then he looked back at Emily. What do you suggest? He asked. That question hit her like a wave. What do you suggest? A grown man. A tram pilot. Asking her. Emily's heart raced, but her mind remembered her father's voice. Flying isn't about strength. It's about understanding. She stepped closer to the panel, careful not to touch anything. Her eyes scanned the screens, searching not for answers, but for patterns. The engines, she said slowly. They were not completely dead, right? The co-pilot nodded. One is unstable. The other is partially responsive. So you still have some stress, Emily said. But control is a problem. Yes. She took a breath. Then maybe stop fighting the planet. Both men looked at her. What? The captain asked. My dad always said planets don't want to fall Emily explained. They want to fly. Sometimes pilots make it worse by overcorrecting. Silence. The captain turned back to the controls, considering. His hands had been tense, constantly adjusting, trying to force stability. Minimal input, Emily said. Let it find balance. The copilot's eyes widened slightly. If we reduce manual corrections, we might stabilize temporarily, the captain finished. Another alarm sounded, but this time, something changed. The shaking softened, used a little. Everyone felt it. In the cabin, passengers noticed the difference instantly. The screams faded into whispers. People looked around, confused but hopeful. The captain slowly eased his grip on the controls, making smaller, gentler movements. The plane stopped jerking violently. It still wasn't safe, but it was no longer fighting itself. Emily exhaled, realizing she had been holding her breath. Okay, the captain said. We vowed ourselves some time. Time. That was everything. Air traffic control crackled through the speakers. A voice filled the cockpit, urgent, calm, professional. We see you stabilizing. Nearest runway is still too far. Though you have a visual on the water. The captain looked ahead. Endless blue stretch beneath them. Yes, he said. We were over the ocean. Emily's stomach dropped. Water landing. She had read about it. Rare, dangerous, possible. If we can control descent and angle, the copilot said, we may survive impact. Me? Emily's hands trembled again. The captain turned to her. Emily, you will help more than you know. But what comes next? I know, she said softly. I know. She looked at the ocean on the screen. Waves moved like slow, breathing giants. There is one more thing, she said. Both men listened. People, Emily continued. They were scared. Panic will kill them faster than the landing. The captain nodded grimly. They need to believe, Emily said. Not in miracles. In instructions. The captain studied her face. Then he did something unexpected. Emily, he said, would you speak to them? Her eyes widened. Me? You're calm, he said. They listen. The copilot added quietly, and they already know something is different. They need a voice. Emily's chest tightened. She imagined her mother's face. Her father's voice. The people behind that cockpit door, hundreds of lives. She nodded. The captain handed her the intercom microphone. Her fingers wrapped around it, cold and heavy. She swallowed. The cabin went quiet as her voice filled the plane. Hi, said Vegan. Her voice trembling used a note to sound human. My name is Emily. I'm a passenger, just like you. Murmurs rippled through the cabin. I won't tell it to you, she continued. We were in danger, but we were not giving up. People leaned closer. Hands gripped armrests. The pilots are doing everything they can, but they need your help too. She took a breath. Please listen carefully. Stay seated. Follow instructions. Help the people next to you. All hands if you need to. Fear is normal, but panic is not. Tears streamed down her face now, but her voice stayed strong. We were going to face this together. When she finished, the silence that followed was not empty. It was united. In the cockpit, the captain looked at her with something close to awe. Outside, the ocean waited, and the plane began its final descent. The ocean stretched endlessly below, shimmering in the late afternoon sun. Its calm beauty was cruelly deceptive. Emily stared through the cockpit window, the walls whispering secrets she did not want to hear. Yet beneath her fear, a strong determination attacked en route. The plane's descent was slow but unsteady. Every bump, every jolt, reminded her that lives were in the balance. Hundreds of them. She could feel the weight of responsibility pressing on her chest like a physical force, but silent her groaned. The captain whispered, mostly to himself, we need a great pass. Exact control on approach. Emily nodded, reading the instruments as best she could. Her mind replayed every lesson her father had ever given her. Decimal, precise things that could make a difference in moments of crisis. She repeated them in her head like a mantra. Stay calm. Understand the situation. Act with purpose. She turned to the copilot. If we angle it like this, we can reduce the impact speed and maintain control during water contacts, I said, pointing at the instrument panel. Her fingers shook slightly, but her voice was steady. The captain blinked, then slowly nodded. Do it, I said. Inside the cabin, Emily's voice had already reached every corner. Passengers were following her instructions, holding hands, securing seatbelts, helping children, comforting the elderly. Fear was still there, but it had transformed into a shared focus. They were no longer powerless victims. They were a single, determined group. Emily took a deep breath and focused on the planet. She imagined it as her father had taught her, as a living machinery responding to guidance, not fear. She felt the rhythm of the engines, the subtle vibrations of the winds. She whispered to herself, "We can do this." The planet descended further. Water grew closer, the horizon bending unnaturally in the cockpit's windows. The captain adjusted the flaps gently, following Emily's guidance. The copilot worked with precise coordination, trusting her surprisingly insightful observations. Then came the moment of truth. The planet's wheels, or rather, its belly, touched the ocean surface. Water exploded upward in towering splashes. Every jolt and shudder tested the metal frame of the aircraft. Emily gripped the side of the cockpit, her nucleus guite, whispering words of encouragement to the pilots. Keep her steady. Glide, she murmured. The captain's eyes met hers, and he nodded slightly, placing truth in the fortero who had never officially flown a plane. The cabin shook violently as the fuselage skinned the walls, but Emily's instructions had given the pilots clarity. They maintained the angle. They reduced the speed. They avoided capsizing. Passengers screamed at times, held their breath at others, but slowly, miraculously, the plane floated. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, it came to a stop, bobbing on the water like a fragile bird. Silence fell, not from relief, but from the raw shock of survival. Then the fierce cry of joy erupted from the back of the plane. People hugged, cried, whispered prayers. Emily sank into a seat, exhausted, her whole body trembling. A flight attendant knelt beside her, tears streaming down her cheeks. You sabe, she whispered. Emily shook her head. We all did this together, she said, her voice barely audible. The rescue boats arrived within minutes. Emergency teams surrounded the plane, helping passengers into life rafts. Emily held the hand of an elderly woman who had clung to her instructions, guiding her softly into the waiting arms of rescuers. Finally, the captain approached the cockpit door, his face off but solemn, and knelt slightly to meet Emily's eyes. "I've flown for over 20 years, he said quietly. I've never met anyone like you. You sabe when we thought there was no hope." Emily felt tears run down her cheeks, not just from relief, but from a deep, overwhelming sense of caressence and unknown she possessed. She realized that age was irrelevant when action mattered. 14 years old, alone, but capable of holding the lives of hundreds in her hands. The sun was setting over the horizon, panting the ocean gold. Emily stood at the edge of the rescue platform, watching the waves ripple gently. The plane event had survived, used barely, but more importantly, so the people inside it. She had learned something that no textbook could teach. Kindness and courage are not measured in years. They are measured in moments when you rise, despite fear, to protect others. When you speak, act, and guide when others cannot. Emily glanced at the rescue team and whispered, almost to herself, "I think this is just the beginning." Because querido enten when danger passes. It continues in every decision, every act of kindness, every heartbeat that chooses to fight for others. And on that ocean, as the sky turned the purple and gold, a fortune stood as proof that when the youngest among us can shine the fire of hundreds.